Hot damn. Hey guys, what's going on? Hey, sorry I didn't talk to you yesterday. I had things to do. I was, I don't know what I was doing. I think, buying things. I'm over buying stuff. I turn around, I need some of this. I need something to wash my hands with or something like that. I have to go and get this. Every time I turn around, I ain't got something. So I have to go get something. So, I hate having things. It's just awful. But I have to grow up, put up with it. I'm going to do a little bit of mixing and matching. I did a passing review a little bit ago, and just to go and see just what people watch and listen and stuff like that. Got a whole lot of shit, man. There's a whole lot of shit there. A whole lot of shit being heard and listened to by hardly nobody. But it did seem that anytime there was like some kind of trouble or heated something, that one got some time. Where these people came from, I don't know. It's like there's a heat sensor. So when something comes on that has a little bit of flair to it, and I've come out, I've talked about all kinds of shit. I have brought up all kinds of information. It's not getting very well used. But I thought that what I would do is I'm going to try to combine all that shit one time. And try to do it quick, all right? Because, I've read this Revelations thing. This is probably about my fourth time or something that's pulled it into life. I saw where I've done it before. It's the same information. I may have learned pretty more, a better way of telling it, or reading it. But, no, we're introduced to three things that are being destroyed, and three beasts or three things that come up that need to be reckoned with. And of course, three is the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost. And we would also say that in place of the Holy Ghost, you've got the Holy Bitch, and she's the whore, and all of these stories have a whore that's at the beginning. Even Jesus, before he ascends up and connects with his Father, he's got Mary Magdalene running around with him. And so, and when you're listening to the Epic of Gilgamesh, you have Enki and his buddy, Enkidu, has is quelled by a bitch too, a whore. Just listen to the story, you'll find that what it means to be fallen angels in their story is that they've taken on wives. They've come from mother to wife. So so it's a replacement situation where that's where we get our disconnection from God because we don't have her in our lives. She does represent the bird, and the bird, things that fly into the air between heaven and earth. That's where she comes in. And without her, there's nothing. Right? But there's a whore always mentioned in the middle of all these things. Even that story, Siddhartha, which is a wonderful story, age-old stories, would listen to this. He also is brought to be, it's the story of Abraham. He had to get up and leave his father's house, and he wanted to leave his father's house so he could go and be a brahmana, go in the woods. He's on a spiritual quest, and so then out of all of that, he says, you know what, I could learn just as much from a bar as I could from sitting around under a tree doing nothing all day long. I could learn, what do people go and put spirits in themselves is to disconnect from this world. What do we do when we fast? He says we disconnect from this world. So he disconnected from his spiritual world in the story. And he went about with a horde that taught him everything, even had a child by him. So the story wraps up at the end where she is on a pilgrimage to go and see the Buddha. The Buddha's dying. So everyone is telling the pilgrims to go and see him. And he also had run into the Buddha on his travels back and forth, and he got this mentioned to. He says, but I'll be following you. I'll be following some kind of book. I would think that I would have something. There's more out there, And so Buddha would say, well, you found a loophole. You found a loophole in the story, did you? He says, we'll see, because everything comes back around, and it's just so beautiful the way the story comes around. That you had to go and do your works first before you get there, like with Christ bearer, Christopher, all right, Saint Christopher. He was a giant, and he wanted to serve God, and he wanted to serve the strongest person in the land, in the world, and he went from serving a king to serving the devil, to what would be there was the one about his works. Oh yeah, when he was going on, he says, well, I'm going to go and find the strongest guy. And in the process, he says, well, there's this Jesus, this baby Jesus, and he says, oh, and you're scared of him, so he must be the strongest guy. So, he then this works, he goes for forever and ever and ever and ever until he finally makes it to this little house. And it's this little gatekeeper. It's the guy who brings people back and forth across the water. And he wants to serve God. He says, I want to serve God. And he stands up and holds his sword up in the air. And the guy in the box says, that's not how you do it. You're going to have to get rid of the sword, And so he goes, oh, well, what else can I do? And he says, well, you can sit and meditate. And, oh, come on, please. I mean, he said fast. He says you can go and fast. And that means to meditate. And he says, isn't there something else? I don't really want to do that, because this is a type of, bowing. No, he wants to serve. So he says, okay, well, there's a way that you could do this. If you go and ferry these people back and forth, if you carry people come here all the time trying to get over to the other side, you can serve God by doing this. And so he wears him out for years and years and years and years. So this is working on the body. And then one day, so he's gone from serving man, serving a king, serving his emotion, which is the devil, and then going in and doing the works to try to get over to this God, or to bear Christ. And then one night, he decides he's going to get a good night's sleep. So someone's going to come out and this is so thunder and lightning and crashing and thunder and whatever, But he hears someone's calling for him. God, oh, damn, shit, And you can only picture his bed's probably only about half the size of his body, because he's not really meant to rest. This place where you're in there is like Cinderella when she's sitting at her hearth. That's what she's about. She's Cinderella. The first thing she does is to wake up and go and serve or pour water or from the well, draw water for a prince and his servant. It's always like that. This is the prince and the servant. Jesus is the prince. You're the prince. If you can ever get over on the other side of this thing, prince or princess. All these stories are geared that way, and Gilgamesh and stuff like that. He's got the lion underneath his left arm, and he's underneath his right arm, or in his right hand. I got it mixed up. Is a snake. He has a snake in it. So this is reference to the Kundalini. And the lion is that he's got it. He's in charge. He's tamed the beast, and that's what that means to have that. And he's large. He's bigger than life, So it's not some giant running around out there, using lions for kitty cats and stuff like that. It's kind of fun to have that view of it, but it's really, no, it's a symbolic story of how things work. Like when we're reading in the Vedics and stuff like that, and we go into situations that are Hindu and stuff like that, and Sanskrit writings and stuff, you get the Bhagavad Gita, and you get the 10 of this and the 10 of that, and it's the same stories. And they are totally coded. Every one of those things are numbered in there. And they say, these are epic, so the Brahmanas that we, that is carefully covered up as being, it's our chakra system, it's the trees, it's the fruit, it's what you bear fruit from. This is the pomegranate, this is the fig tree, this is, this business here. That's what they're talking. Brahmana is how do you get from earth to heaven where these gods are, It's like one of the newer stories that's talked about from the Dead Sea Scrolls is this idea that when something is going on down on earth, this guy is up in Venus somewhere, on Venus, while all this shit's going on, but it's only gone for just a minute. But, but I understand the thought behind all that. But because, it's about travels. But Brahmanas, they very well could have lasted. I mean, years and years, thousands and billions of years ago, that's how old these things are. They probably did have people flying around and all this stuff, astronauts, and things along those lines. But they used this spaceship idea as a way of traveling, and that's their prediction. That's how their guys get around. But it's really representing the same thing. It's the chakra system. This is whoosh, up to heaven you go, baby. That's how it works. And you come back down. So all of these stories are meant to put the imagination and everyone, that's how it is. And that's real. And we all want to act just like it. Look, they're representing exact copies of what they're reading. Is what they're seeing. Exact copies. But did they realize that there was something more to it? That there was something on the inside of this that they had to catch on to? So we have Joseph and Caleb going to go and check out the other side, but they only got up to the 6th rung of the ladder to look up there to see what's going on. Caleb, the dog, the master, or the hunt. These are all, I talk about, they're all bows, and it's this idea of, aiming for something higher. The Hopis, they're all looking for the white buffalo, right? In the midst of all the rest of it, And what do they do when they finally get to this white buffalo, this sacred thing? They kill it, and the nations feast from it. Right before they kill it, there's this pause, quietness before the kill. That's the 6th. Remember, there's nothing right before the Lord's day. And so even in the story that Hopi's talking about, in one of his oral traditions that he's listening, he said, this is the story of my great grandfather. He said, no. What, not with that pause in the middle right there, boop. No. Because as soon as that pause was over, when that pause he was told to take aim because his arrow had to go just so and pierce him just so. And of course, everything happened just so. So yeah, yes, when you go and give up the cow for 5 beans, you know, and that 5 beans representing your 5 senses are thrown out the window, and a beautiful stalk comes up, and then you go up and find that you are the goose that lays the golden egg, that you also are where the wealth is up here. You'll find all these little stories. My goodness, they're saying the same thing, you know. So it's really kind of interesting. And I'm putting all these stories in here because I don't think any one of you damn people are even watching those things. But I use them as references in the stories all the time. And so, you know, if I can get at least this new group of the 30 dozen, you know, to be on the same page with me, because I use them all the time. Because well, that number 4 is a hard lesson to learn when it comes to the world, and everything has to be in accord, right? And remember, one of the things that you get when you go up there with the Jack and the Beanstalk is you get a harp. Harp is this idea of being in accord, in one. All right, he gets a goose, right? A harp. And I think he got a bunch of money at one time. I don't know what he was getting, you know. But it's all set up that, you know, it was 3 times that he had to go up there. And he was actually really liked by this woman, you know, this lady up there. Well, you guys, there's just the coolest stories on earth. And ones that keep bringing us to this little resting place in the middle of a field someplace, you know. Sometimes it's in a cornfield when it's in our Bibles and stuff like that. But I've listened to the Tao, or Tao. It's DAO. It follows the letters, follows the number system just beautifully. Remember, we had go from, you know, introducing someone, then 2 would be 2 coming together, and then 3 would be 3, you know. So when she found in some of these stories, and when I'm listening to the way having to do with Buddhism, they're all there. It's all the same. You'll have that 1, 2, 3. 3 is when they all come together. This is when the teacher shows up, and it's just beautiful. I just think it's the coolest stuff. So yeah, so I have found some kind of a weave that pulls all of these things together. Even the idea of the Trojan horse, he and his 5 men, there was a guy. They waited until a certain time after midnight when everything was, and then a door opened, and they all came out from inside this thing. It's the same story. It's the same stories. Medusa, she's this opposite side. She's the snake side of these things. She started out as a beautiful person, and then she was defiled by something that came up out of the water. King Neptune or somebody defiled her. She went from being the most beautiful and most loved goddess of them all to, you know, look what she did. That stupid girl. She should have known better. And so with her ugliness, you know, some guy has to come chop her head off. And that's the way these stories go, even when Jesus is betrayed. When you give up the skin, the guy, it's for a holy situation. So he does it. He separates himself from the lower side and the higher side. This is the separation. Anytime people lose their head, like John the Baptist, this is a good thing. But, you know, but if you read it from the outside, ooh, you know, motherfucker lost his head. There's some bitch, you know, but you have to understand that it was her mother. Her mother egged it on. So she becomes a damsel. Oh my goodness, you guys. I absolutely love being in this position of being able to tell you guys how the Bible works, how it sounds, and how you can relate it to all these other stories that make even as much sense as like, oh my goodness, when one of the stories of the six swans, when the six swans, it's this girl, she had to make some things out of flowers. She's doing the works. If she wanted to take and bring her brothers back from being animals, back to being human beings. And that brings me back to well, anyways, let's see if I can remember. To bring them back into being human beings, she had to do these works with flowers. And so she worked with the flowers, and that's getting yourself through all those different chakra systems, because you have to open those things. You have to change things, the way you live and the way you think and all that stuff. So when she's done, she's, by a certain time, and she couldn't do it ever. She couldn't talk the whole time. I think all she could do is cry. But anyways, during the story, when it's all done, she's being taken to be killed. She's been taken to be hung. And then what happens? These geese come flying in out of God knows where, and she tosses these things that she's been making, these flower coats and stuff like that, into the air. Where they came from, I don't know, but it's a story. All right. So the next thing you know, they're all turned back into boys and back into their brothers, and this is just really good, you guys. 6 of them and only 1 girl, and it's the girl that brings them all back to their lives as human beings. But the one that she did get a chance to finish, the last one, came about, had a wing on its right arm. A wing instead of a right arm. You always will have your messenger. That's the way it works. Even in this story of what's the name of that? Pandora's box. Who is delivering Pandora's box to these guys? Who's doing it to them? To her and her husband? It's Mercury. He's the one. He's the deliverer. He's in the story. He's the messenger. There's always the messenger. That's how it works. There's always a side of you that's the messenger. And in the Bible, this is the child. This is the child in you that we send to go and do this job for us. And he becomes your messenger. He's the messenger. Jesus is the messenger. So he becomes the Jesus side of you. So you have to kill your father. You tell your child you're going into meditation. Go. I want you to go and meet your mother. This is the right side of the brain getting to have its seed and give you the promised child. So beautiful. And you think it all started by just being met by some beautiful woman at a well someplace, right? While you and your servant, wait to be quenched if you're thirst. It's just the coolest shit on earth, you guys. The coolest shit on earth. The coolest stuff. And to find it weaved into our lives so beautifully. And no one even knows it. No one even knows it. So we're meant to do our best to try to bring the prince and the princess together, like in the Song of Solomon. They never made it. He liked the lilies of the field, or the valley, But in its season, all these trees, all of us will make it over to this side. Will fruit, and you won't be smacked by Jesus because you ain't got no fruit going down. That's a curse, cursing the tree. And one day, the Jewish people will get past the 6th rung. That's where they'll stop. One day they'll all get past that, go on this other way. But till the works, it's a long way to get to that little 6th spot, that resting spot, that place of rest. It's a tough spot to get to, and if you could be like those guys in the story between the four musicians, where they all, let's see, there was a horse or some kind of a donkey or something like that was the first thing, and they were trying to get into this house. So what did they do when they finally got there? The donkey, put his hands or his front paws or hooves, on the windowsill, and the dog climbed up his back, got on his shoulders, and then a kitty cat. Was it a kitty cat? Yeah, I think it was a one-eyed cat, something like that. Scampered up this thing's back and got on his back. And then there was a rooster that came about, top it all off. And they thought, how to get in here? So at one time, all of them went, oh, and next thing you know, they fell in. They fell in this place. Yes, it's very much the same story. Yeah. All of these stories, from Gilgamesh to Cinderella, in our Bible, the Tao, Buddhism, Hinduism, Jainism, and I would think that, we would have Christianity in there. We have from all around the world. All of these religions are sporting. They're sporting this code. No matter what eon, wherever it came from, this magical text have this code stuck in them. And I reveal it, I show it, I prove it. I got thousands of, it looks like hundreds of hours worth of proof that nobody listens to. But anyways, I only talk about end of times. It's the only thing, and make fun of everyone else's end of times. But, I'm understanding it's the works. It's the works. I'm learning. All right. Well, anyways, you guys, did I ever tell you that? Oh, I know exactly what I was going to do in the first place. I was going to tell you about this Epic of Gilgamesh, the fallen angels taking the lore. We may have already mentioned that. All right. But, this Nibiru and how their atmosphere needed the gold to be infused into their atmosphere so that things would be better in their worlds, right? That they came to Earth to see if they could make man a better man, make a better person out of this man, if they could do that possibly. So we think of them as they genetically maneuvered us so that they could turn us into slaves to go and mine gold for them so that they can go and fix their atmosphere. I want you to pull that shit right back through your mind again and see it as just what we're doing here. We are trying to bring ourselves back into being a better human being. With him I am pleased. This is when the dove settles on Jesus and he's been baptized by John. With him I am well pleased. And at the end of all these stories, you'll also get this, this bowing of the 4 and 40, or 4 and 4 and 12 something. Well, it should be, it's the 4 and something. Damn, I can't remember that right now. But anyways, the idea is that they'll turn around, it's all your brethren, and they lay their face to the ground, and they are surrendering themselves to the person in the chair, to the one who did all this, the person who caused all this to happen. And it was through your side buddy, through your sidekick, you two witnesses were the ones that had to do this business. But it's bringing you into being a prince from being this not such prince, you know. And so the whole idea behind this is to go and get the gold, you know, and that, you know, in its due time, because most of us, and all good number of us, all of us, have spent their time in the street with the whore, and that's what happens. Because you got to do the works first. You gotta, you know, you gotta have, you know, the practice. You know, the practice. That's crazy, but that's what it is. All right, so this will make you into a finer man, a finer woman. You can get it over onto this other side. That's what it's all about. Even the stories of the ninth planet or the ninth. What do you wonder? What do you think about that? 9 or 10? Even the number 11. I would steer away from that one because that would be like, you know, another planet like Earth, another hell planet. But no, we're getting this idea that there's like if we've learned that if there was more gold, then we would be in the golden age. We would be in a beautiful time where there's less hell on Earth. It would be the opposite of now. There would be lots of light, and there would only be pockets of darkness. And so, you know, this is the time, this is the opposite side of that we're in more darkness and a lot less light. And so I think that's all we're looking for, is to become this person that can give light and show their light. That's all. That's it. There's nothing else. Nothing other than the dogma from religion destroying us over and over again. It's our choice that's given to us, all right, you know, to give up God, and you can give him up for a long time, and eventually it destroys the world. And it's been destroyed so many times over and over and over again. And it's only because they gave us our choice, and that's God's will. And so it's a type of you know, using up the chalkboard, and then one day you got to erase it all and start it all over again. And because this is a folly, everyone's always going to be, you know, questioning things. They're never going to know what's right. You know, no one's going to get fed correctly. No one's going to, you'll be deceived by every facet of your body. And we're told that. We're told that. Got to do the works first. Anyways, I pretty much put a lot of shit in this one little thing. But I wouldn't believe any of these end time stories and these ideas, because it's just folly. It's silly. It's silly. You know, it could be entertaining, but put it under entertainment. Put it under entertainment. You do yourself a lot better. All right? Because it's bad science. It's just bad science. All right. Well, I love you guys. Best to you. All right. Go for the gold. Let's go for the gold.